So the theme of Interfaith Harmony Week this year is love God and love neighbor, or love the good and love neighbor. Because we're talking about neighbors regardless of their association, that is, neighbors across faiths and neighbors of no faith, in this context, my understanding of the good is the common good. And that brought to mind Pope Francis's recent encyclical on the environment, which is subtitled, On Care for Our Common Home. In addition, unusual for such a high-level teaching document of one faith, he directed the encyclical at people of all faiths, people of goodwill is what he said. A deliberate attempt at some interfaith discussion. And there has been some success. Before it came out in the spring, a group of over 400 American Jewish rabbis delivered their own rabbinical letter on climate change, noting that the Pope's soon-to-be-released encyclical was motivating it, in part. And an Islamic declaration on climate change that came out in August also noted the Pope's encyclical as one of the things that had driven them to declare from their own faith perspective what climate change meant to them. So love the good, love neighbor, the common good, our common home. I want to draw all these together by focusing a little bit on this encyclical. And one thing that I want to say is that I do not believe much in a lowest common denominator approach to interfaith dialogue. I think we need to be honest when we refer to our own particularities of belief, and I think that the troubles of our age require working together, but recognizing those differences also. Because those differences can be resources for different approaches to solving those troubles of our age. And it's in that spirit that Pope Francis discusses the common good on the way to caring for our common home, the earth and the neighbors who dwell within it. As he says, quote, underlying the principle of the common good is respect for the human person as such, endowed with basic and unalienable rights. And he continues that the common good also has to do with the overall welfare of society. And finally, the common good calls for social peace, the stability and security which cannot be achieved without particular concern for distributive justice. Throughout the encyclical, he makes constant reference that the common good includes care for the earth. That care for the earth is for other creatures in creation, even implying that these too are our neighbors. That care for the earth and our earth neighbors is also care for people, because we all rely on the earth, and especially for the poor of the world, because degradation of the earth most severely impacts them or impacts them first. This is the principle of environmental justice, or as I prefer to say, we need to work for just sustainability. There is no peace without justice as a common refrain. There can be no sustainability without justice either. And says Francis repeatedly, all this is wrapped together. Quote, the same mindset which stands in the way of making radical decisions to reverse the trend of global warming also stands in the way of achieving the goal of eliminating poverty. The mindset which leaves no room for sincere concern for the environment is the same mindset which lacks concern for the inclusion of the most vulnerable members of society. So maybe not you here, but certainly many in our society will challenge some of those assertions. And that points to something important about interfaith dialogue, or better yet, interfaith participation. To love the good so we can love neighbors well, that is, that we can live well together in the land, also involves trying to figure out what is the good or goods that we should love and do. So I want to conclude by emphasizing a few things. Loving is practical, applied, not abstract and nice words. Loving the good involves effort to figure out what the good is, and even more difficult, how to act on the behalf and basis of doing good. Our neighbors is also more expansive. It includes the other creatures who share our common home. Insofar as we humans are powerfully and negatively affecting this common home, and the wealthy and powerful among us even more so, we must do the good by these other than human neighbors also. And as Francis says, today we have come to realize that a true ecological approach always becomes a social approach. It must integrate questions of justice and debates on the environment so as to hear both the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. That is how we love God, or love the good, and love our neighbor.